So you can take a picture of your cat's face and it'll tell you if it's sick or not.
Yeah, it's like a health assessment for your cat.
This would be the perfect time to use that name that you almost used, Carrie. Chat, or is it Chat GPT? Or Cat GPT makes more sense.
Yeah, Cat GPT. Yeah, you don't need to make it French.
Yeah.
Join Carrie and Pete on Artificial Breakdown as they strut into the future with Courtney Kos from Prévoir.ai. High heels optional, curiosity required.
Okay, welcome to Artificial Breakdown. Today we have Courtney Kos, and she's the founder of Prévoir, which is an AI-driven fashion agent. And I'm so interested to find out more about this because I'm not exactly the most fashion-forward person in the whole world, but I think this is super interesting. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you both.
How did you meet, Carrie? Because this is your guest. So this is CMA, the Calgary Marketing Association?
Yeah. So I went to the Calgary Marketing Association. What was the name of it?
It was a panel focused on marketing AI tools.
Right.
Yeah, back in
Yes.
November.
And Carl Ye was on that podcast, or was on that panel as well.
God,
and
where is he not?
I know we've had him on the podcast already too.
It's everywhere.
Yeah, and at the time you were talking about using this to basically create fashion lines. That's kind of what Prévoir does, but why don't you tell us in your own words what Prévoir does?
Well, I identified a use case for fashion way before AI was part of my vocabulary. I was back in grad school over 5 years ago now. I did a lot of research in the intersection of fashion and technology and data analytics. And I realized that there was a real opportunity for a tool to help fashion brands manage their data, improve its accuracy, save their time. I talked with, many different fashion professionals in my academic research as part of my MBA, and really realized that there was a need for some kind of tool. I looked at a lot of different types of merchandising tools that were already on the market. A lot of them are not tailored to fashion. They're just tailored to retail in general. So like cosmetics, CPG, they'll kind of roll fashion into that, but really not like targeted to fashion brands to help them manage their data. And then, within the last couple of years with all the advancements of AI, I realized that there was just this incredible technology now that really made my use case much more of a reality than it was before.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
I do like that you come from the side of, you come more from the side of fashion than from the side of technology, but still.
Yeah, I have very little technology background, actually. Most of my background is in fashion and in marketing. And sometimes fashion and marketing together. I did some work in technology right after grad school. I was headhunted by a firm down in LA to work on a retail tech platform. So I learned quite a bit quite quickly. But before that, I really had very little exposure to the tech industry.
So would you have had like a more traditional look at it before that? Or I guess more traditional education, I suppose?
Yeah, I have a Bachelor of Communications from U of C. After graduating from my undergraduate degree, I had my own store here in Calgary. So I have firsthand knowledge of what it's like to buy for a boutique. I was on the sales floor all the time. I was making observations about my own sales. And I mean, already at that time, it was over 10 years ago, I was starting to ask the question of like, why are certain products like such a hit and some are not? And, there's like that 80-20 rule where it's like 80% of your sales are coming from 20% of your products. And I was already asking that question, like, how do we buy better and make better decisions so you can really get more products that your customers really want? Because anyone who's been in retail, whether it's fashion or some other, retail vertical, like what people say they want versus what they end up buying and what they really end up liking can be quite different. And then after having my store, I worked at a marketing firm that the head office is in Quebec, and it did marketing for most of the big Canadian retailers. So that was a different perspective for the fashion, but that is definitely more of a traditional background than I think a lot of tech founders have. Yeah.
You mentioned kind of fashion, first of all, fashion data as opposed to just any other data. What does that look like? Like, what do you need that other kind of CPG brands don't have, or what, you know what I mean?
Well, there's a lot of sales data, which any retail vertical is going to have.
Mm-hmm.
And merchandisers are already analyzing that, mostly in traditional ways, like in Excel. But what is more difficult to analyze without AI is the pictures of your products. And that includes, analyzing your products with AI, from fabric to the silhouette to the color, prints or patterns if they have any embellishments if they have any. And really what a lot of merchandisers get is they get, a list of analytics and SKUs, but they have no images for one. They have no images next to the products that they're analyzing. So a lot of times they're looking for the images to go with these products in some analog way, whether it's on their website or literally walking around their store. Sometimes we've heard fashion merchandisers at really big, well-known companies, that's how they try to find the product that they're looking at.
Oh, wow.
And they're also, not only that, but they don't have that reference, but they also are not pulling all of those attributes and being able to combine the attributes with their sales. It's more so just going, okay, like, what are my 20 best selling products, and going and looking at them and then trying to decide for themselves why something sold well or why it didn't, without any real analytics behind it.
Right. And I guess not being able to see them all at once either, because you're kind of just going around looking at this article, looking at this piece. It's like, oh, they both have buttons, I guess. Like,
yeah. And like right now we're in our beta phase right now. We have our initial users that are using Prévoir. They're giving us a lot of feedback. And it's shocking to me that just having pictures of their products next to analytics and, a mood board type of user interface where they can get that overall look and start to kind of slice and dice their products, something that they haven't really had. So it's kind of what we like to call like our wedge product, where we can give them something that like isn't super, super hard to do, but really gives them value before we really start building out some of those more complicated features.
oh, I love that. Just that kind of stepping stone of like, look what technology can do. It can really simply make things a lot easier for you.
Yeah. And they're so busy, like they don't want to spend months and months learning a new tool. And we've heard that from so many competitors that it can take anywhere from 3 to 6 months to onboard a brand, whereas, it takes us 20 minutes to get a user onto Prévoir. There might be some bugs right now, but
Isn't there always?
they can start using it right away, and we watch them use it and we're like, okay, they get it. We don't have to tell them, where to go, which is really great feedback. But yeah.
So then who is your clientele? Who's using Prévoir?
Brands, it could be, some of them are designers, so they just have like one brand. And then some are multi-brands. So it's going to be interesting to see if it's more useful for companies like, for example, Holt Renfrew or Saks or Nordstrom that have many, many brands, and they're going out and buying products. They don't get a say in what's getting designed, versus, a brand like, I don't know, Calvin Klein that's designing all of their products. There's a lot of overlap in their work functions and their job functions, but some things are unique. So yeah, I think that's going to be really interesting to see if one is a more useful use case than the other. But right now we cater to both, and we have both types of companies using it.
So just so I can get a handle on Prévoir, is it a marketing CRM, like an AI CRM tool? Like, is it there to help organize and match up your data set, or does it generate photos on the fly for you? Like, what exactly is it, just from a high level?
Right now, we only accommodate brands on Shopify, which is a massive amount of the market. It's about half. We have the data to back that up. So we connect to the Shopify API. We import all of their sales and transaction data and the images from Shopify. And so that's where we have our own dashboard where they can log in and they can see all of their products, and they can see their sales data combined with their images. And they can, for example, they have a dashboard that shows like, you can select a date range, you can select a brand, you can say, I'm going to look at tops, and you can see what were the best performing colors in the last week, or what were the best performing fabrics from last season, for example. So there's major decisions that merchandisers are making on an ongoing basis. It's allocation, so like having the right products in the right stores, from a small store that maybe just has e-commerce and one physical store to, one of our clients in New York that has about 7 stores and then e-commerce. They're constantly looking at this data to go, how should we be reallocating our products? How should we be reordering? And also, like, how are we planning for the future? Like, if we know that, this is what did well in fall of 2024, how can we plan for fall of 2025? I think one of the things that isn't surprising to fashion professionals, but surprising to people outside of fashion, is a lot of what they're planning for is based on historical data. And that's a good thing, because like, they get to know their clientele, and their clientele typically wants just more of the same thing. You do need some level of newness. You might want to like pull in some trend type products, but generally speaking, you're planning based on what's done well in the past and forecasting in the future, and like take into account other things like maybe the economy and different things. But yeah, that's how they use it.
That's very cool.
Thank you. I should send you a demo after.
Please.
So it's interesting because it allows you. So I'm assuming that it's indexing all your products, but you're not going in there and tagging, hey, this is a wool sweater, or this is a red sweater, or this has a V-neck. Obviously, I'm picking on your sweater right now. But it can pull all that out by just looking at and analyzing images. So you can get a lot more data without trying to sit there and index everything manually. It's just going through and giving you so many different ways to look at stuff.
Yeah. We're generating about 20 tags per product.
Oh,
so
cool.
You're describing my sweater, and like one of the things that is surprising to some people who log in the first time, they're like, well, where did all these tags come from? I didn't put these in there. And I'm like, no, AI did it. You didn't have to do it.
Love it.
Whoa. Do you remember when tags were the future? Like, you had to tag everything, and you had to tag every single thing in every photo in your whole photo library. And that was how you were going to, and now classic, just another way that AI's come in and been like, I'm going to do this 1,000 times easier.
Yeah. One more summer student job done.
Oh, yeah.
Inaccuracies when you're doing it manually, right? Like, you call this red, I call pink. Like AI is not perfect, makes mistakes as well. But we spend a lot of time testing the accuracy as well, and we've really been able to improve that.
What about generating? Like, I've seen a lot of, like, for instance, this kind of like flow through one where you buy on demand. That's what I'm talking about. So you can generate like a t-shirt, put up your design, and I saw in real time it generated about 30 different images with the t-shirt on a model, and here's the front, here's the back, and here's it in gray, and here's it in blue, and all of that was generated in about 5 seconds, which is pretty cool, because in the past, well, we know you have to go out and shoot all that stuff or use mock-ups and stuff like that. Is that part of this?
We haven't gotten into that realm. We're really just focused on helping brands and designers empower their collection planning and make better decisions, but we're not looking into kind of becoming the designer for them. There are quite a few tools out there, like as you described. One that comes top of mind is Raspberry. I think they're American. That's probably the most prominent one that does that type of prototyping. And I'm sure you are aware of all the types of ways that AI has infiltrated marketing, especially with fashion photography, AI models, all those types of things. But no, we're not going into that realm. Yeah, we're really go ahead.
That's kind of nice too, though, because it's, you're not saying, oh, we're going to use AI to tell you, the designer, what's in fashion. It's more like, would you say it's more of a accent to their kind of creativity?
Yes, trying to really help them save time in the data analysis. And the decision making, like the less fun decisions, like the allocation, like how much should I order? How should I price something? Like they need all that data when they decide to go buying for a season, or they're going to design for a season. But like those types of decisions are very time consuming and not very fun. I think that like the or product prototyping that you're describing would be probably more applicable to fast fashion. We've really developed Prévoir with mid to more luxury fashion in mind, just because they don't make products within 2 weeks to a month. They're having to plan so far ahead, and that makes it more tricky. And they're also not, copying other brands. Like they're trying to be the ones that are developing the new products and setting the trends more so. So I wouldn't be surprised if, really big fast fashion companies are going to want to do that, like rapid prototyping, because the design element is pretty data driven anyway. But yeah, if you're ahead of a luxury fashion house, we know they don't want to be told how to design your clothes, at least not right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's like the best job for, humans to be able to do, right?
Totally. I mean, that's the stuff that people want to do. That's the fun part of work.
Yeah, exactly. We're trying to help you eliminate the things that are not fun.
Yeah.
Right.
Not me. I prefer tagging things. That's super cool. So, Courtney, do you have a sense of, it's a good application of AI getting in here. Do you have a sense of where it might go? Like, do you see a bit of a roadmap where AI might be taking fashion?
There's just like so much influx, just like probably every industry right now. There's so much influx of AI startups for fashion. When I was first scoping out my idea, that was about 3 years ago now, I think I found like 5 companies, pioneer companies. Now I have a list of, well over 100, and I probably haven't even found all of them. They're just, there's a use case for everything. I know there's a lot of focus on sustainability, trying to help brands produce less. There's a lot of focus on sustainable fabrics. There's a lot of focus on the secondhand market, which is still a very small part of the market, but it's a growing market. And there's a lot of more growing interest on people in like buying secondhand products. So I think that the sustainability element is a really big thing. Fashion brands, the 2 probably biggest ways that they can help their sustainability is producing less, which is what we ultimately would love to help them do. It's going to take time for us to get those KPIs to be like, okay, we helped you increase your profitability, increase your sell-through, shrink your dead stock, because every brand has dead stock at the end of the season. I'm sure you've heard like the horror stories of big brands like burning their dead stock or whatever, because they don't want people to have it, but they know that they can't sell it. We would love to be able to show brands that we can shrink that at the end of the season. So yeah, sustainability is definitely a really big focus.
That was actually going to be one of my questions. Like I imagine this would lead, especially if you have that 80-20, you said 80% of sales are 20% of your
stock.
So then what happens to that other 80% of your stock that isn't selling? And that's very cool that could help probably significantly reduce that.
Yeah, and it's tough because, one of my professors, I did part of my school in Milan, and he's been with Xenia for like 20 years. And he's like, well, you're always going to have some dead stock, because if you were producing only exactly what everybody wants, like they want this perception of selection and choice. So you do have to have other products, but there are definitely ways to be able to shrink that down. And then there's also some really interesting startups that take dead stock and do other things with it, like make new products. I know Coach has started an entire second brand. I think it's called Coachtopia, and they use only their own dead stock to make new products, which is pretty cool.
Oh, that is very cool.
Yeah.
I had no idea that dead stock existed. This is fascinating to me.
What?
But I do remember I remember being at Kohl's bookstore, which I can talk about now because they don't exist. But at the end of whenever it was, one of my jobs as in the back was to tear off all the jackets and tear the books in half and throw them in a can.
Whoa!
Yeah.
You were a book burner.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Holy cow.
They wouldn't want to just give them to like a secondhand store or anything.
No.
Wow.
Yeah. Into the garbage they went. And I just had to, we returned the jackets back to the publishers. But the rest of it just went into a bin, I'm assuming for maybe recycling. I don't know. This is a long time ago.
Yeah.
Wait,
Probably was book burning parties.
Can you rip a book in half? Are you that strong?
Yeah, you've never seen me tear like Yellow Pages in half.
Maybe today's Yellow Pages. Like
Yeah.
4 pages.
Craziness. Oh, okay. Well, that's really interesting. What about like, it's interesting because that's kind of the data and the marketing side of fashion. What about like fashion itself? Have you seen anything? I know for a while it was big into wearables, like light up dresses that could change colors or have rotating patterns and stuff like that. I haven't heard anything about it since, but like I'm not in this industry, so I have no idea if it's like firing like crazy or if it's kind of going through a phase. Do you have any idea, Courtney?
Based on what I've observed, what I've read, also just my own shopping habits. I love shopping. People are going a little more traditional now. They want to buy pieces that are going to last a really long time and not go out of style. There's definitely more of a priority on comfort, but it's almost like two ends of the spectrum. You want, there's my hand, that on one end. And on the other end, you also want to buy like really cool avant-garde things for those odd times that you go out, because a lot of people aren't really leaving their houses as much still, right? There's still that post-COVID, like, I don't know about you too, but I go to an office 1 day a week. So, and I kind of have my uniform during the day. And then if I'm going out with my friends or something, I want to wear something really interesting because I feel a little cooped up. And I think I feel a lot of people are feeling that way in fashion. So you're buying two very opposite types of things. And the really avant-garde stuff, they want it to be like really unique for themselves. Like there's a brand called Golden Goose, an Italian sneaker brand, and they have like a whole section in their stores that is just customizable sneakers. They'll do like fun graphics on them. Some of their sneakers are like really distressed on purpose. So they're very, very unique. And so that's kind of where I see a lot of the taste going right now. But it can change quickly too.
Yeah, somebody just told me about, I feel like I've been exploring my fashion in the last few years, and I'm a big thrifter too. I'm a big secondhander. But somebody was like, well, you need your capsule wardrobe. And I was like, what the heck is a capsule wardrobe? And now I just want AI to make me a capsule wardrobe.
Anything, first of all. But yeah, there are brands that are founded on the capsule wardrobe philosophy. So if that's something that is helpful for you, you're like, I want to look good, but I don't really like shopping, then that's a great choice for you.
That is literally me. You just described me.
Yeah. And that's great. Yeah.
So sorry, what is a capsule wardrobe?
It's like,
You'll probably explain it better than I will.
theory or philosophy that you can buy maybe 10 pieces of clothing and they're interchangeable, and you wear those 90% of the time, and you would only update them like if something wears out, or maybe you incorporate a couple pieces every few years, but you're pretty much wearing the same thing all the time and it looks good. Steve Jobs didn't even have a capsule wardrobe. He just had one outfit, but that would have been considered a capsule wardrobe. Yeah.
Yeah. He had just like Batman outfit, like 7 of them in the wardrobe. Yeah.
It's just so interesting to me because, and I don't know, this is, coming from somebody who's not in the industry, that fashion just seems not at all entwined with technology. So I'm so interested in how what made you think, like, clearly there was a way that this was all done and it wasn't entirely efficient and people didn't have images with their lists of items. And like, how did you start thinking, let's add technology to this and see what happens?
It's kind of just a classic trying to look where there's business opportunities. It was, me in grad school, being told from my professors, like, you need to do a research dissertation. You need to pick something that you like, but something that you think could be applicable to your job in the future. And I was just like, I like fashion. I don't know anything about technology. And I just started researching those two things together, top of the funnel, like what companies are doing things with fashion technology. And then I identified an opportunity. And I think that's where AI can be probably the most disruptive, is just finding like those business functions, whether it's fashion or something else, where it's just very analog and it's very time consuming. Fashion is a sexy industry, but I don't know if data analytics and saving time and tagging clothes is very sexy. It's not, but it's super, super useful. So that's really how I came to that conclusion.
Yeah, well, I love that. Because it can be easy to just disregard all the non-sexy stuff. But in reality, that is going to make this a whole lot sexier in the long run and so much easier. And, you get a client who, I'm just imagining this client who suddenly has all this extra time to create more or, do their own, even if they just go like walk around in nice clothes more. Like, I don't know what they would do if they weren't taking photos, but
well, yeah, it's an industry where people get really burnt out because the expectations for the amount of time that you put in, especially when they're at like a peak of a season. Like, I don't want to name any companies, but I've talked to a lot of companies, and it's very normal to expect your buyers to be working around the clock for weeks on end during, fashion week, and typically not paid very well either. They burn out quickly. Like a buyer at a really big brand usually only lasts a few years. You can only
really?
do so long, right? So yeah.
Yeah, I love this idea of, obviously you started looking into technology with fashion far before this like ChatGPT AI explosion. But just knowing that, like, keeping your eye out for an opportunity, and then when it shows up, you were able to jump on it because you were already thinking about it and you were already like, there's something here. And now this thing's here to help accelerate that, instead of, some people who might be like, wait, what is any of this? Even though they're like, I think AI can help me, but I don't know how. Whereas since you were already kind of looking into it and thinking about it, you were like, oh, I know exactly how this can help.
Yeah. And I was very disappointed at the time, but 3 years ago, I was looking at doing my own startup, but I was also interviewing with some very pioneering fashion tech companies, some over in Europe, some in the US. And I learned a lot about their technology, like gave me a case study. I talked to like all their entire staff, and plan A was really like just to go work for one of these companies. I'm like, I don't have to be a founder. I'm not the person who has to do this. Right.
Right.
But, as I said, there are very few companies doing it. I didn't get any of those jobs, but it's kind of one of those things where you're very disappointed at the time. And then now you're like, oh, like maybe this was a way better path. Cause like, maybe I'd be living somewhere cool probably, but maybe it wouldn't have been that interesting. And now I get to do it myself.
Well, yeah. And now you get to work with, it's the same as us at marketing. You get to work with a bunch of different companies, a bunch of different brands instead of one.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's the rush, the marketing rush.
What are you most excited for over the next little while here with AI growing the way it is?
Oh, it's overwhelming. Like every day, I'm just like, oh no, like we've got some big competitor. Like, you're always like monitoring your competition and new products and everything like that. What am I most excited for? I'm just most excited for our progress, because we're really getting to the point where it's like we are really understanding what exactly we need to do to get that product market fit and being able to mass onboard brands to using Prévoir. Really excited about getting into the Shopify app store. It's just from a technological perspective, it's a real pain in the ass not being in the store. It's just, I probably don't even know the half of it. The engineers do, but that's going to be really exciting. And that has a whole marketing component to it as well, and exposure to our ICP. So yeah, I'm really excited about what we're working on. Yeah.
Well, speaking of which, you're doing a bit of a raise at the moment. Is that right?
Yeah, we're looking to close our pre-seed round. We've raised $750,000 from Alta ML, and we want to raise another $250,000 to close a pre-seed round of $1 million.
Oh, very cool.
Congrats. Alta ML is pretty great, hey?
Yeah, I should have talked about them more. They've really been, I mean, if I hadn't met them, I probably wouldn't be sitting here talking to you guys. They were really a game changer for me. And I feel like they've taken a chance on me. Like we started working together last January. So it's been a little over a year now. And that whole process has been really incredible, just being part of their venture studio. Their team and their software developers are all just really, really wonderful. And I mean, they are a co-founder. It can be a little confusing, I think, sometimes from the outside looking in. They are technically like my technical co-founder, but instead of a person, I have access to this entire business that the both CEOs have built out. And yeah, it's just been really, really wonderful. At the time that I met them, I really wasn't looking for investment. I'd kind of gotten sick of talking to investors and I just didn't think that there was much interest there. But yeah, it was a really good fit because I happen to have a use case that is exactly what they're looking for. Like they want to be in B2B, high vertical high growth industries. And I checked a lot of boxes. So it's been a really great relationship.
Yeah, that just gives that like Alberta, give each other a chance, let us help each other out story, which I love.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we work with AltaML a little bit too. They're great. Absolutely great. Hey, Courtney, thanks so much for spending some time with us. I've learned a lot, mostly capsule, I can't remember.
Wardrobe.
I am going to go. When I first heard it, I'm like, oh, is that what you bury yourself in when you're... But no, it's radically different than what I thought. So I'm gonna take a close look at my capsule wardrobe right now.
You know, if you need help.
We do.
Yeah.
We both need help.
But thank you so much. It was really, really great to have you on. And again, such a neat area that AI is kind of helping out with or changing in an interesting way. So yeah, it was great.
Yeah, and I love seeing women in tech. I just think this is so awesome that you took a bit of a gamble and took a bit of a risk and tried something that you love, and I just think it's great.
Well, thank you. And thanks so much for having me. This was fun.
I would like to hire her and AI to dress me. Like that just seems... I know that's not what they do.
I thought that was great. Like it was, like you said, super informative. I had no idea. Well, mostly about fashion, but then AI in fashion is a lot.
Well, yeah. And it's funny too, because I think a lot of people don't know about dead stock, and it's like a problem. Like you have like the amount of textile waste from fashion, especially fast fashion, is like a world problem. Like there's some documentary about it that I've watched, and it's disgusting, like how much of this stuff just ends up in a landfill or burned or however else to get rid of it.
Yeah, I had no idea. I just kind of thought that went to like secondary markets and whatnot. But
I'm going to send you some links. This is why I'm a big second-hander.
I was in I was in the grocery store yesterday, as we are like every day it seems, but I was at the grocery store and I'm like, what happens? Just sitting in all the produce. I'm like, what happens a week later with all the stuff? There's no way it's sold, right? So, and all the milk and everything that goes on, it's like, where does all this go? I don't even know if I want to know.
Food waste is, okay, well, here's another thing. Did you get Odd Bunch?
No.
This is going to be a commercial for Odd Bunch, not paid for by Odd Bunch, but I'm a big fan. But Odd Bunch collects because there's also all the food that the grocery stores just don't buy. So where does that go? Because they can say no to a lot of stuff. They'll say no to things that are too big, too small, too ugly, too bruised, too whatever. So Odd Bunch actually collects all of that and sells it for cheap. And you get it delivered to I get a delivery once a week with fresh fruits and vegetables for $25.
Oh, cool.
I'll send you a link to that too.
Yeah. That sounds amazing. Yeah,
it's great. I'm obsessed with it.
Odd Bunch. That's oddbunch.ca. No, I don't know what it is. Yeah,
I think it is.
No, very cool.
Just anything sustainability wise that like AI can help with, and I like what she was saying too about this can help us create less waste. I'm like, then yeah, let's go.
Yeah, no, it was really good. I don't know. Like it's funny because I didn't know what to expect. I had no idea. It's one of those things, it'd be like hairdressing. I'm like, I don't know how AI can get in there, but it probably has a role to play in all these different areas, and you just never really know what or how. But the data, I didn't even think about like the sales data side of fashion is kind of like the boring side of managing a fashion business. Of course it makes sense.
But then that's, those are the numbers you need in order to be successful. And then mix that with the creativity of somebody designing a brand. And
right. When product data is such a necessary evil, the more you have of it, the better. And the more organized it is, the better. But the bigger you get and the more products you get and all the SKUs and stuff, it's so unwieldy. Like it gets out of hand so much. And if you want to make a change now, you got to change like 50,000 SKUs. Like I can understand why it gets into the states that they get. So having AI helping you organize and sort and tag and discard.
The tagging.
Yeah.
I used to work for a disc golf company, and we used Shopify, and we had to put every individual disc into our catalog and tag every single disc with every single thing about it, so that when the client or when a customer goes onto the website, they can search. And it was so like I was into it because I thought it was cool that now we can search and you get all these things, but it was just excruciating tagging stuff. Oh
yeah, like I said, it was a student job. Like any non-for-profit or organization or anything that has just 15 years of videos on CDs, and it's got all these photography and documents and PDFs and news articles. Like it was a miserable job just sitting going through them, trying to be like, okay, we need to tag with a date and maybe who's there and all this stuff. And you're missing a million other tags that you could potentially be doing, but like who has time for it?
Yeah. But now you can get that summer student and tell them, hey, can you shove this all into this AI tool?
Yeah, totally. Okay, well, that took you an hour. Okay, you're fired.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I don't know. God. But yeah, there's another job that was a bit of an entry job that's gone. So that's one of the things I worry about a little bit is just like, how do you start? Because the jobs that you do when you first start out are the jobs that are the easiest, like less risky, the most susceptible, I think, to AI, at least in our industry. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like you're definitely right, because we keep talking about this too, how like if you're the expert in your field and you bring AI on to help you out, then you're fine. But what if you're not an expert in your field yet and you need to get into it? How do you get into it?
Right. Well, you said the jobs probably just change, right? Like that job's not a thing anymore.
Yeah, I think you become you run this custom chatbot that helps us do stuff. Yeah. That still needs some kind of human oversight. Yeah.
Or like, just lean over, let's plug this into the back of your neck. Okay.
Yeah, we have summer cyborg positions opening. All right, I think we got her.
I think we're good, hey?
I think so.
Okay. Well, good job, as always.
You too. Sweet.
Okay, thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
That's a wrap for today's breakdown. If you have any thoughts or questions, drop us a comment or message us on social media. If you enjoyed today's chat, why not subscribe so you don't miss another episode? Thanks for tuning in. Stay charged out there.